Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode, the first pull-up tray episode in quite some time. So
Yeah.
nice to be back that I'm wearing a blazer for it. Myself and Trey, we've talked a lot of basketball together, but not any for public consumption since the November incident from myself. And we're here to talk about all the latest happenings with the Raptors in what has been, a whirlwind recently. Very exciting basketball recently. And very successful basketball recently. It's a different team now. It's a different process to cover them. Trey, how the hell you doing? How was Christmas and all that kind of stuff? I know, but tell the audience.
Thanks for asking.
Did you get sturdy?
I got a little sturdy. My cousins from New York came over, and the whole time I was like, how do I not look like the older cousin? So we did a lot of dancing. I learned a little about New York rap, so it was good. How was your Christmas?
It's good. I went home to Saskatchewan, saw a bunch of family, learned how to do the Juby slide, and then put out a video of myself doing it because I was like, hell yeah, this is a sick old dance move. It's good. It's nice seeing family. It's nice, obviously, for anybody who enjoys family, that's always like a really great thing. And also, you and I collaborated together on that wee afternoon where we talked about Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett joining the Raptors, OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, Malachi Flynn going out the other side. And what we have is a 4-game sample afterwards where they are 3-1. The offense looks a lot more intuitive. It seems to make a lot more sense. And the defense has had promising stretches, albeit not super, super impressive. Matt Stevens says Trey looked like he just got off the golf course. How do you feel about that?
I wish I was that rich. Not close.
But the Raptors.
But yeah, I think so far I've been really pleased by what has been happening. If you told me that swapping out Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett would lead to a top 5 offense, I would have told you that you're nuts. I think what was probably the most surprising is how quickly RJ Barrett has reduced his role and blended in within the offense. A lot of what he has done within the offense is like OG Anunoby type usage, straight line drives, catch and shoot jumpers, but he's also added portions of his game where he can lead the transition. The Raptors thrive in transition and helps with that. His passing, especially going off of the dribble and using his live dribble to hit the corner, has been super impressive. It's something I didn't think he was actually capable of, and it's a portion within the Raptors offense that OG didn't actually wasn't able to do. So I think it's a really good wrinkle. I don't expect him to keep shooting the ball the way he is, but if he maintains as an average catch and shoot shooter, he can lead the break in moments where there isn't Pascal or Scottie. He's a useful rotation player, not a toxic asset. So I would say from the two, he's been the most surprising, and I think what he's doing is replicable like throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, for anybody who wants a full exploration of that, you can go to raptorsrepublic.com. I had a piece come out today about it. Basically, the crux of it is that RJ's skill set is more unique and more valuable on offense when the decision-making is correct than OG Anunoby's was. Of course, he's not going to shoot 10 for 19 from the three-point land all the time like he has been since he's become a Raptor, but the driving stuff, the empty side playmaking that's there, we saw flashes of that in New York, and he's getting a lot of opportunities to attack weakened or compromised defenses. He's not a guy who has finished at the rim at a high rate in his career. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the talent. I think that was more a reflection of the difficulty of the shots he takes. Scottie and Pascal, chief among the Raptors, have been able to bend defenses into these, uncomfortable positions, and RJ has been punching those gaps, getting all the way to the rim, and that is the largest amount of his success. Also, there's like navigating the middle of the court kind of comfortably. He is more comfortable there, knowing he can get to a little pop shot, knowing that he can try and grind to the left side of the basket. And an underrated thing here, he shared a team with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle where defenses were constantly gearing up to stop those guys from getting to the left side of the basket. RJ Barrett was just another guy on the team who was trying to find his way downhill to that left side of the glass. On the Raptors, he is the singular, And the Raptors, I listened to the podcast you did with our friend Jack from over the water, and he talked about the continuous motion offense that Darko runs. It's providing RJ with more opportunities earlier in the clock, in pseudo and in transition. It's been great, man. Super enjoyable.
It's I think one thing I didn't consider when the trade happened is that RJ actually is able to play his natural position. Like on the Knicks, he's guarding much bigger players because they didn't have an OG, and within the offense, he was operating as this bigger wing. Whereas now the guards who are facing him, because the Raptors are this gargantuan team on the wings, he's much larger than your average two guard in the NBA. So his strength separation is only exacerbated, and it allows him to get easier looks than I think he was getting previously, like with the Knicks. So keep doing what you're doing. Like there's some of the obviously like within the first couple of games, like some of the decision making leaves with some pause, but he's giving them a pop that I didn't expect. So I'm super happy.
Matt Steven asks, do we think RJ's ceiling is higher than OG's? I don't know about all that because, like, not lost in the shuffle of everyone being excited about RJ. And I know RJ just eclipsed OG's career high in points with the Raptors and tied his career high in assists in his fourth game. That's a big deal, of course. But OG walked onto the Knicks, completely restructured their defense, plugged perfectly into their offense. And they set a record. He had the highest plus minus of any player after joining a team after like 3 or 4 games. It's just like they win his minutes by an insane amount. He makes a lot of sense there. And OG, we've seen it on good Raptors teams. We haven't seen like this version necessarily where he's like a more fully realized version of himself. But OG on a contender is a guy who he's depending on the game, your third or fourth most important player. Maybe even like your second most important, depending on the matchup on the other side of the floor. So ceiling is kind of this nebulous thing. Coco in chat says they seem like different players know and different teams.
Yeah.
Context, the better the league gets, like there's so much talent in the league, the more context impacts how players perform because like you're smaller and smaller margins because so many people are so good that how you're utilized and how your skill set kind of plays off of your teammates and how all that kind of stuff goes together, it creates a lot better outcomes for you. And so OG, I think, is not in the most friendly environment in New York, but he's killing it. And I think that Barrett is in now like a quite friendly situation in Toronto, and he's been sublime so far. You can't help but feel like proud of him.
Yeah.
He came in, dude. He's killing it.
When the trade happened, when we got on, we literally said if he sticks to a very simple role, does the things that he does well, and like for him to come in and do that instantaneously says a lot about him and showing us awareness. So matching OG's like ceiling isn't a necessity for me, nor do I think it's like a realistic thing. OG's super impactful and like one of the more unique players in the NBA, and the Knicks are steamrolling everyone now with just a simple switch. But if he can be a positive NBA starter in the league, that would be a massive win for him for where he's come from the Knicks and where he's like obviously been viewed in the league.
Yeah, big time. Emmanuel Quickley, I think for some people a bit quieter than expected, maybe in like point totals, assists, like he put up a bunch just last night. But as far as Emmanuel since joining the Raptors, where are you on? Because I know you were gassed when they got him.
I had the flu that day too. I don't know if anyone noticed when we were
that was your Jordan flu performance.
It was, but
the Mormons poisoned your pizza.
I had my ramen noodles and screamed, "What? We got Emmanuel Quickley." But I would say that I'm still happy with what has been going on. I think as you've seen, I think I tweeted about it yesterday. His playmaking and decision making has been a plus for the Raptors, and having another guy who can get downhill, score off of movement, has given them other looks within their offense that they haven't had since Fred left. So it's just made the offense flow a lot better. They look like more of a natural team. I think what maybe a thing that he needs to work on, or the next step if he is gonna reach the bet that Masai probably thinks, is the downhill stuff. He has the floater, obviously, but you've noticed that when he gets cut off with the drive, he hasn't necessarily developed the counters that like maybe like a Darius Garland, where that turns into like a pivot, or like the guy he played with, Jalen Brunson, that turns into several different things, or even utilizing his off-ball prowess and continuing to relocate off of the ball once he's cut off. But he's playing with two guys who are great finishers at the rim, and you saw yesterday he spammed his assists, literally just throwing it up the court with 2-6-9 guys. So overall, if the shot continues to be what it is and the downhill stuff gets figured out, I think he has a extreme chance to hit a ceiling that wasn't available for him before.
He is, I think, what you mentioned about getting downhill. It brings up something that Joe Wolfond tweeted about, who is a great writer based out of Toronto. He writes for The Score, NBA-wide stuff. He mentioned that he thought maybe we should be thinking about scorers not really as three-level scorers, but that there's a fourth component. That instead of thinking of it as like the rim or thinking of the floater as part of like the mid-range, you think of the rim as like the restricted area, layups. You think of floaters as their own type of skill, their own type of shot making, and you think of mid-range jumpers as their own thing as well, because floaters are a completely unique counter and response to defenses that allow like a wide berth of playmaking opportunities, a wide berth of shot making opportunities. And I think that if you go by that definition, Quickley is a three-level scorer. He needs that fourth one, and that's the one at the rim. He has tremendous touch. Everybody's seen that. He will be utilizing one of the best pull-up jumpers that the Raptors have ever had on their team, and some of the best movement shooting that the Raptors have ever had on their team. It's a big deal. The playmaking, I think, has mostly been as advertised and somewhat better, but it's just like finish a few more of those plays, maybe go into contact a little bit more often, use your last dribble a little bit more often. He picks up a little bit early as a driver. This kind of stuff is easy to critique from the outside. When you're in motion, you're trying to score against an NBA big. It's tough to input this stuff. But those are the things he'll work on going forward, managing his pace and control going downhill, because he's quick, but he has to be able to play at multiple speeds. And so there's stuff he can work on. But I think although the scoring has maybe been a little bit disappointing, maybe for some people, not really for me. I've seen some people like, oh, maybe I thought it'd be more. And like aggression, who knows? But I think that the package of skills that he's brought and how he's inputted them, I think has been really impressive. And he is above all else like a flow player. He plays within the flow. He won't, like, late in games, the Raptors really put the onus on him to create, and it's gone pretty clunky. That's unfamiliarity. That's maybe he's not like that level of shot maker yet. It's not KD up there above the break, all that kind of stuff. I get it, but he plays within the flow. He doesn't hurt anyone's game, is a massive positive with his spacing, his cutting, his ball handling to help everyone else's game rise. And the on-ball stuff, I think it improves over time. I think he has the skill packages to get to that point. It's just about taking those next steps with the team after he signs his new deal in the summer. And yeah, it's been good. I feel very strongly about this trade.
Yeah. I think what was interesting with Quickley is that the usage, I wasn't expecting that much on ball reps that he was getting. I assumed, like everyone, that Scottie would be his
They
son.
handed it to him.
Yeah. I am like Scottie would be his son, and he would be orbiting around him, relocating, taking threes from there, and then using when Scottie bends the defense, closing out, similar to like what RJ's doing. I'm unsure if like this is like a portion of what their team may look like in the future, so they're giving him those reps, or that maybe it's some of Scottie's passiveness. Do you think he has the ability? Because I do think he's quick and his handle is good, but do you think he has the ability to develop into that fourth level scorer and be able to bend the defense in a way to be a non-ball guy?
I think the most likely way forward for him is growth, not necessarily as a guy who learns, the pivot, bump, shake loose, free throw rate avenue of getting to the rim. And I think he's probably pretty slight of build to be a guy who like gets to the bucket and finishes, takes bumps over big men. I think that he can still be like a main on-ball guy. He just has to manipulate fully, like completely unravel teams with your pull-up gravity and work from that. And also like playmaking reads becoming really impressive and really high level is also a really important thing to be able to do. Like Tyrese Haliburton can't finish at the rim, not really. Not contested rim stuff,
Yeah.
right? But Tyrese Haliburton completely unwinds and undoes defenses constantly through his pickup manipulation on his dribble and his eyes and body language as a playmaker and as a passer. I think Quickley, the easiest way and the most, intuitive way for him to become more and more dangerous as an on-ball player, I think, is through that means. And that is a means that I think pairs extremely well with Scottie Barnes. Use your motion. Be clever as a decision maker, and you're not going to be like the preeminent driver in the world, of course, but there are things you can manipulate with, and there are things in your own skill set that are already elite that you can lean on further. And the Raptors emboldening him from the start, I think, is a bet on those things, because he got to show his shot making consistently on the Knicks. He got to be a gunner. But when it comes to the Raptors, it gets to be the crux of how they move through like heaps and heaps of actions offensively, and not just for him to be a scorer, but for him to kind of set the tone for how defenses react. And so that's where I think his pull-up shot making will really, really help move mountains for these Raptors. And I know we haven't seen a ton of the two-man stuff between he and Scottie, but they put out the clip, Masai's on the phone. He said, like, I love the fit with Scottie. There's a reason they're so excited about Quickley. Like the fan base is excited about Quickley. Why we're excited about Quickley. It is super, super impressive. So I think there's lots of room for optimism going forward, even if it doesn't come in the exact way that people think, which development rarely does,
Yeah. I think like moving forward, because I think one of the things that's like obviously been circling, Scottie's usage has been down post trade. Teams are showing much harder when he's posting up, and it looks like he's figuring that out throughout the process. But one of the big keys, like for Emmanuel Quickley to really get to the place that he is if Scottie becomes the driver that he can be. Because if he can bend defenses, Emmanuel Quickley becomes 10 times more dangerous. And the fact that his gravity as a shooter is holding people on the other side of the court, vice versa, will help Scottie like figure that part of his game out. Because pre-trade he didn't have a player who had the same amount of gravity.
Well, let's keep it with Scottie then. He has had a little bit lower usage since the new guys came on, since the trade. I think he had 6 points last night.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many shots he took, but he didn't make many of them. It wasn't his best game as far as like offensive process, but taking that in mind, and also the steps he's made this year as a playmaker, as a scorer, as a hub overall, what have you made of his process so far since the trade?
You would obviously like want more aggression from what he's been doing, but defensively he's taken on a lot of guards, and while it's been a mixed bag, he's done far better than what I thought he would do. When I saw that Darko puts him on Steph, the first thing I said was like, this needs to end. Like, this is going to be a bad scenario. But he top blocked extremely well. He offered a lot of rim protection also when flowing through the offense, through the defense. But I would like to see obviously more dribble handoffs with him and Quickley, utilizing like the Raptors like patented like ghost screen that was like famous with Pascal and Scottie, Pascal and Fred. But I'm not fairly concerned because he impacts the game so well, and I thought he was still impactful yesterday, where him scoring 20 points or not isn't really indicative of whether he's played well, whereas like other players it would be.
Yeah. He scores in bunches. He's always scored in bunches. And the big step this season is that the three-point shot has helped bridge the gap between quarters where he finds the wrinkle defensively that he can attack, or when they're like playing in heavy transition or something like that, right? So he can be a scorer on any possession because he's still at 32 38.2% from three on the season. One of the biggest three-point jumps when you consider volume and percentage in NBA history. Incredible work from Scottie there. So he can bridge the gap as a scorer if he's shooting the three ball well in any game. But he's always been a guy who finds a wrinkle in in a lot of cases, it was the fourth quarter, right? Where he sees something he likes to attack and he goes after it. He goes to some of the more contested areas on the floor, but he is also a flow player, similar to IQ. The reason why I think there's such a harmonious offensive ecosystem right now is Pascal is not necessarily a flow player all the time. Like he's a guy who's like, give it. I'm going to go create something like repeatedly. And the defense will react however. I don't know if we're scoring on the possession, but I'm going to draw two. I'm going to draw people to me. Let's go and let's work from there. RJ, despite being more limited as a player than Scottie is, obviously, is also a guy who's like, let's see if I can go bust in there and create something. So there's room for players to play like in these flow states and like these open concepts and like continuous motion concepts. But there's also a bunch of stuff where Scottie can take advantage, can be more aggressive. And he is, from an offensive standpoint, I think leaving a little bit on the table right now. But he's also a very cerebral player who a lot of his decision making is based off of what he's seeing, teammates' tendencies, and also what teammates like to do. And I expect that aspect of the offense, whatever two-man action he's running, whether it's with IQ or with RJ or any number of players, I expect that stuff to grow over time with the familiarity, which has been the case with every player he's ever played with. So I'm not worried about it. It's been like he's always had like bouts of passiveness offensively. Like this was a reason why a lot of people were like disappointed at the very start of his sophomore season, was that Pascal was out and there was this big hole for offense and initiation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you had guys like Delano Banton for games at a time being more aggressive than Scottie. You had games where Scottie, like you look at it and say, you're getting a lot of touches here and you're just like, you're moving the ball on, you're not taking advantage of that kind of stuff. And some of that definitely could have been linked to, I think, a lingering ankle injury, but also like he can be passive at times. And the thing is with this team, they've been so good offensively that passiveness hasn't been punished. They have been punished in the past for that passiveness offensively. Sports Boy RD Wallace says Scottie's not a point guard. He's a small forward who can lead the break. You've echoed that sentiment as well, I think. And I think that is probably the most succinct way to describe his approach. He, like, in the half court, he plays like a forward.
Yeah.
He really does. So he can do things like a guard at times, as many wings and forwards do. That's the appeal of a wing, typically. That's like the LeBron, the KD, the Jason Tatum, whatever. The ideal wing is a guy who can emulate guard skills and then also emulate big skills defensively, cover ground, protect the rim passively, all this kind of stuff. And Scottie is a unique mix of like certain types of forwards. And as far as like the point guard aspect on the break, he's one of the best transition leaders I can remember watching, like, in my life. He's really brilliant there. But no no disappointments.
No.
But I do want to, like, accolades. People, they care about that, you know? They, like, people love the accolades. I think he makes the All-Star game. Although if anybody's in chat, you guys should be voting for him because he didn't even register on the ballot, man.
Yeah. Like the fact that Kyle Kuzma like outvoted an entire country is disappointing. Like I voted for him once, but clearly I'm not doing enough either.
I mean, get on it, brother. Unless that media pass hanging around your neck at Summer League made you feel like you're impartial. I don't know. Big media trait.
I know I'm friends of big media, guys like S. Vandiar, Barra Haney, and Samson Folk, but I am not of that ilk.
Well, who's to say? But okay, so All-Star status. Do you think that he would get selected? Because he's not. It seems like he's not getting voted in. Not a lick. So, coach selections.
Yeah, I would say yes. He would definitely be one of the last spots, and I think it would be dependent on whether the Magic or Celtics get 2 All-Stars. But I do think he's deserving. Like when you consider how much his improvement was needed for the Raptors to even maintain within their offense, the skill that he developed, which is significantly hard for most players. And he not only improved offensively, he improved on the defensive end as well. And he's now a major force for them down low in the defense. And I think he's like him and Pascal, to be honest, have both been like 30 of the best players in the NBA. So I think the Raptors should get at least one All-Star.
Who would you be the most upset at going in over Scottie?
If I see Jaylen Brown,
That's mine too.
curse the day.
Jaylen Brown would be a really tough one. Also, like, I don't know, he's competing against guys like Brown, Maxey, I think ends up making it, but Maxey is like maybe in a similar tier. I don't know. He's getting like 26 a game. I think he's probably by coaches and by just because the 76ers are so good, I suppose. But even like DeMar, like I think Scottie makes sense as a selection, especially like Franz shouldn't make it over Scottie. I think that would be a little bit ridiculous. Brown shouldn't make it over Scottie. And I'd be really disappointed if he didn't get in, to be quite honest with you, because I know everyone tried to dunk on me at the start of the season with the little stat query thing saying like nobody's ever done this before. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We don't know if it's going to manifest in points or assists or in more steals or more blocks. Relax. It's a prediction. Don't call me a dumbass just because you found some like, you carved out a butter knife equation. And so, but you could start carving out butter knife equations for him right now. I got a stat from Raptors PR that they sent me very kindly. So let me just go pull that up because he's doing historic things, which I quite enjoy covering people who do historic things. And so here it is. You ready? We got a big one. Scottie Barnes is averaging 20.5 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 5.7 assists this season. Barnes has joined Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Magic Johnson, and Oscar Robertson as just the fifth player since 1960 to average 28-5 through the first 35 games of a season at age 22 or younger. Now, of course, this stat becomes bigger and better if he does it for the full season, but the fact that he's already here, hell yeah, man.
The statistician on the Raptors, you cooked. You earned your job today.
That's I wonder if they peek at like Keek's stuff. They're like, I wonder what I can pull.
I don't know.
RR says, do we trust Joe Mazzulla to select a Raptor?
I don't know. After seeing Nick Nurse's shenanigans to the Celtics, I don't know.
Do you think Mazzulla is like part of that? He's like, you did Kemba Walker. Oh, I can't believe it. Like he has those dating back to 2020 allegiances.
If Joe Mazzulla knows that is a thing, I will assume he is a sociopath.
He's got it written on one of his little cue cards that he used to do. But the other thing I want to actually ask about, because I think we're settled. Do you want to shake on it? Scottie Barnes All-Star? Okay, still vote, people, though. I'm not one of those media members who's going to get blamed for not doing his part or like pulling weight. Since that's what media is now, is like I'm just supposed to like anyway. A little insular, a little commentary from Samson. But most improved player, he's still in it.
Yeah.
Like what do you make of that? The pack.
The award tip like historically is like the person who makes like an all-star leap and how many points per game did that increase by. That's typically what it is. But like if you look at the essence of the award, and the award is about improvement. Like Tyrese Maxey, I think a lot of it has to do with increased usage. I do think he's probably going to win the award. Tyrese Halliburton, the same thing. Like you saw, he was on the precipice of this as soon as he got traded to the Pacers. But like Scottie Barnes actually improved at very tangible skills that can be seen on his box score, both defensively and offensively. If anyone told you that he was going to shoot nearly 40% from three and be a two stock plus guy, you would say he's an all-star and edging on all NBA. That's unrealistic. You predicted something that was even lower than what he's currently doing. So he's one of the few players that you can like pinpoint the actual skill that he's improved upon and highlight it like statistically. So if I were a vote, if I had as much clout as you or others, I would.
You think I get a vote? Are you nuts?
You're about 2 years away from a vote.
2 years away from being 2 years away. Is that the
But yeah,
all right?
I would vote for him.
So Tyrese Maxey is averaging 26 this year. He averaged 20 last year. He's shooting worse from three. Tyrese Maxey is one of my favorite players in the league. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I don't know if it was actually like if they were actually on the 1 yard line with that Tyrese Maxey Kyle Lowry trade. I'm not sure about all that. But if they truly, truly were, and the Raptors didn't get Tyrese Maxey, I'm heartbroken. And not now, but for years. But all that being said, like, yeah, higher usage. Tyrese Halliburton, higher usage. Both of them have improved. But
Yeah.
the point you make about like Scottie Barnes, not only is it like higher usage, yes, but he has such a tangible, like, look at this thing that was not only not a skill, but just something that was considered a major negative for my game. People, I know the coaches and I know the voters aren't going to care about the dialogue that much, but it's like people were calling me Ben Simmons. People were calling me all, people are saying all this kind of stuff, saying how limited I am.
Yeah.
And now I'm banging triples at 38% all game on over 5 attempts from downtown. That is one of the quickest like flips that a guy has done, historically so. I know Keeks hasn't put up like these are the 4 guys who have done it, but those guys are like, it's usually like Julius Randle, and his improvement isn't necessarily improvement. It's just like the crazy roller coaster he goes on from season to season because of, some shooting variance. But Scotty's just took it. He's like, now I'm great at it. In fact, I'm the best on the team at it. And my God, man, that something has to be said for that. I think there's a case to be made. I'll probably end up making the case at the end of the year in some coverage or whatever. Go on Kevin O'Connor's podcast to plead the case once again. But I tell you this much. The history of the award does not look well upon him. That's, and Channel, which is a funny name for a YouTube channel. Channel says, agree with your perspective, but voters will just see Maxey filling Harden's role and how they're a better team now and say he's most improved player. No? Yeah, I think that's probably the case. And also, it shouldn't be lost on anybody that Tyrese Maxey is like almost doubled his assists per game. And like, it's a pretty big deal what Maxey has done. Like I said, he's one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA and like talk to. He's great. I do also think that it's really, really funny. Flashback with me. Flashback. It's All-Star Weekend. Scottie Barnes is there. Precious Achiuwa is about to go on the greatest tear of like basketball play he's ever been on. But first, there's a skills challenge, including sophomores and rookies. That fateful day where Tyrese Maxey was telling Scottie Barnes not to hug him, and those guys combined to make no shots. And everyone in the basketball world laughed at them. And Tyrese Maxey since then has been one of the best shooters on planet Earth. On planet Earth. And Scottie Barnes is one of the greatest shooting development stories so far this season. Oh, how we can rise from the pits of despair.
It's like both of them have had such an insane season. Like with Maxey, like pretty much everyone pegged him as the most improved player. But the way that he's able to bend defenses, like show him that he can take on more usage and do it in a very efficient fashion, like is probably one of the reasons why they made this trade. And another reason why like they're, I think, going to be going in another direction.
Yeah. It is worth considering. Like we talked about at the start regarding RJ and OG and how context is so impactful to how players play. Not only just in what they're able to achieve, but of course the efficiency, but also just the baseline of what you can attempt to do on any given play. Pascal Siakam. I want to talk about Pascal. You are very invested in this story. Very, very invested. Is Pascal Siakam a Raptor past the deadline? I know you have a couple potential trades in your mind that you kind of like, or I know there's some that you dislike as well, but I'm going to let you take the lead on this. Pascal Siakam on the Raptors past the deadline. What do you think?
I would be pretty shocked if he was still on the Raptors. Not only has the front office from the literal day that they were made available to speak to you guys, that they were thinking of going in another direction, not offering extension to your best player on the team. They've empowered initially the players around him and shrunk his role, and they haven't shown that they're willing to really offer him a full-time max. So going into free agency and hoping like the goodwill throughout the years is going to extend is super risky. They lost Fred for nothing, and going to show like they've
addition by subtraction, of course.
big win for you. Big win for you. But assuming that they get a trade that is like feasible and fits around their timeline and Scottie, it would make more sense to go full force and all in on Scottie's timeline and look into building the team into year 2, year 3 of Scottie's max extension and building a winner. I think keeping Pascal past the fact would be really hoping on not any regression throughout his like early to mid 30s. I think max takes him to what, 33, 34.
Yep.
But and then also just a level of, you would hope that the shooting rebounds in a way that it has like through December and beyond, but and allow Scottie and him to be like tangible. Currently, I'm unsure if that's the case. Like if they could continue to shoot the piss out the ball, sure. But I assume they're going to empower Scottie and allow him to earn more usage as well as have more requisite shooting to see what he looks like around like a more optimized team.
So I think the two ideas that are considered consensus or maybe public wisdom is probably that keeping Pascal, signing him to a max, whether you think that's overpaid, whether you think that's deserved, whatever, probably keeps the Raptors as a good team.
Yeah.
I think that there should be room for optimism for this Raptors team if they play out the rest of the year to have a shot at the playoffs. If they run things back, signing people, and they kind of shake up the back end of their rotation where there's some pretty big contracts relative to impact, some stuff like that, I think there's an expectation that that would be a good team.
Yeah.
I think the swing, the home run swing when it comes to Pascal is that you move on from Pascal in hopes of not being like a good team, but in hopes of seeing that championship contention or potential earlier, and perhaps earlier on in Scottie's like max extension or something like that. I think that's the wisdom around each decision. Does that sound correct to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like Pascal is still top 30 player at the worst version that you think of him. And that's extremely valuable. And keeping Scottie around really good players is a net positive always. So that makes a lot of sense.
And we have a comment from Channel that says, is there any optimism to be found in Pascal replicating his productivity from last season on fewer minutes and less usage? Was this not the unselfishness that Masai spoke of? So the first thing, Pascal's true shooting percentage is almost like it's just shy of 60% right now. He's been incredibly efficient. His numbers per 36 are probably exactly where they were last season, just on lower usage. So he's meeting the terms of what you're asking. And then was this not the unselfishness that Masai spoke of? Masai is not speaking of any specific selfishness. It was a messy buzzword he continued to throw out. And just like when he said that Delano Banton and Jeff Delton Jr. were big parts of the future before neither of them obviously came back to the Raptors, and the Raptors made no attempt to bring either of them back, he's just talking. And unfortunately, Masai was just talking in a way that negatively affected the way that fans view some of their players. And that's something I dislike. But Pascal, trade talks. Let me say something first. So, because I know how you feel about this. Pascal is not James Harden. Pascal is not Bradley Beal. Pascal is not remotely Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
He's not asking out. A player who doesn't ask out does not give a list of teams. A player who says he wants to be in a place does not give a list of teams. That's it. Pascal has stated that he would accept, well, he hasn't stated, it's been reported that he would accept the max extension. He would have before this season. There's been also reports about the Raptors freezing him out over the summer, not talking to him, right? And then also, when we talk about this, he has not stated he wants to leave. So that's the thing, man. That's the thing. When you say, like, where do you want to go? And he says, here. It's not his job to, like, sell the other team on him. The team can trade him. The Raptors can trade him.
Yeah.
And that's, like, the be-all, end-all. The Raptors can trade him. It's not Pascal's job to increase the value he's getting in the trade market. And so that's where I think, like, there's a bit of disconnect. That being said, what are your ideal packages or destinations for Pascal?
Before I start, I am not an NBA GM. I do not hold any power, nor am I as smart as Masai Ujiri. Okay. But I think in terms of if I were thinking of making a trade for him, would be one, a place where he can win, because you should send him off. He's one of the best Raptors ever. You should send him off somewhere where he can win and he'll be utilized well. And a place that has players who are both young enough to fit around Scottie's timeline and help with the construction of the team. So if I, given the information that we know, I would say the number one place would probably be the Indiana Pacers. They desperately need another ball handler, someone who can score inside. Having the amount of spacing of the Pacers have, I don't know if it's, I haven't looked at it. I don't know if it's historical, but they have like an insane amount of guys who can shoot, pass, and finish at the rim. It would allow Pascal to play in probably the most like harmonious offense he's played, and it really allows us to see what
outside
he can do.
Outside of the current one.
That's true. We have the greatest show on court. But it would give him the best chance to show what he can do. And if he's looking for, I don't know how many years he's going to sign, but if say he signs a shorter deal, doesn't get the 4 years that like I'm pretty sure John Hollinger said he won't get, that can lead to another bigger max extension. In terms of package, the Raptors, like while their offense has been good, their defense has shown like obvious areas of weakness. It's forced Scottie to play a lot higher. They're missing wing defense and a guy who can help out on the perimeter. And having a backup point guard would be really nice. So a guy I would target is Andrew Nembhard. He's a really good defender. The shooting obviously comes and goes with him. He's also Canadian, and he would be able to, whether he's starting or not, he would be able to offer another ball handler who can both organize the offense around him, also be another guy who fits within the flow. And then in terms of just like a pure asset, Jarace Walker makes tons of sense. It's a guy who can play multiple positions. He offers a lot of the stuff that were similar with Precious. Really good athlete, can defend guys, offers more pluses as a passer than Precious would. He could be a guy that I'd be unsure if he could start in the future next to Scottie, but he would be a guy that shows enough promise and tools that you can trade within the future and get another guy.
He's really interesting because there's a huge divide on Jarace.
Yeah.
I know some guys who are like totally gassed on Jarace. Think Jarace would be like a home run coming back. But that seems to be a smaller group of people. But if Jarace is a home run, he seems like the gettable home run.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you feel. And the Raptors should rest easy knowing that they would sell at least one Jarace Walker jersey to our friend Charles.
He's shooting the piss out of the ball at the G League too. So that's like
isn't that nice? Wouldn't that be nice for your 2023 draft pick to shoot the hell out of the ball at the G League level?
It's a marathon. But yeah. Those would be the two guys that you would target within a trade. The Pacers have pick ammo as well, and like one of their big salaries is Buddy Hield. He's a guy that's on an expiring contract that you probably could flip to another team in a three-team trade, or keep within your team because Buddy Hield fits on literally every team. And if there was a player that you'd want most around Scottie, if you want him to be your hub, it would be Buddy Hield. So I think in terms of salvaging what you have in terms of Pascal's value, the Pacers probably make the most sense for both like him and what the Raptors are looking for.
The Pacers are like, Jake Fisher reported that 10 teams reached out, right?
Yeah.
I heard of 4, and like a couple of them make sense.
Yeah.
Indiana seems like the one far and away that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Both as far as like having players the same way that like the New York deal for OG made a ton of sense, but people weren't looking at it because they're currently the defendant in a lawsuit with the New York Knicks. But it made a lot of sense that the Knicks were trading from, a place of surplus strength to improve a place of weakness. And the Raptors did the exact same thing. It seems like Indiana could achieve something and the Raptors could achieve something. They're going different ways. Like the Knicks and Raptors somehow both improved after that trade. I don't think that would be the case for a Pascal trade.
Yeah.
But I do think that's interesting. Ryan L. also says something that I agree with to some degree, saying, I seem to be in the minority, but I see Pascal as a fit anywhere all-around player like OG did versus a 1B star if traded. I don't know about 1B or 2A or 1A, whatever the hell it has to be, but I do actually think that there's some wisdom in here. I think that the complications of Pascal's fit on a bunch of prospective teams, I think are overdone. I think he will fit better than a lot of people think he will. And I'm not saying this as an agent of the front office of the Toronto Raptors to try and sow, discord among other front offices, say, oh, he actually does fit. But I think that the problems of his fits, I think, would be a little bit more, I think they're a little bit overstated. But, I mean, Indiana makes the most sense. That's kind of where I'm at. But Phoenix Plays Z says, does Pascal start on every team in the NBA? Who? I mean, I don't know. Like, I've never conceptualized that, but I think probably.
Yeah.
Who would he not start on? Like Phoenix, but he would just be in
Phoenix would start.
Like, who would he not start on? I don't think that makes sense to me.
No, the Bucks, he would just play the wing. They would need a wing defender.
Phoenix Plays Z says maybe Boston. Let's dead it. Pascal starts everywhere. Yeah. ND says people just bring up his 3-point percentage instead of everything else is so annoying. Most of these teams looking for him already have a surplus of shooting. Yeah, Pascal's shooting almost 60% inside the arc on like an insane dose of self-creation. He's a wizard in there. And it's like the 3-point shot is coming back up. Now, we don't know how high it goes, but it's probably like it's not as bad as it was. He had a historic shooting slump for him, but mostly he is like a mediocre to passable 3-point shooter. And also a guy who can create a mismatch, create with advantage, draw doubles, and create his own look to the tune of like high efficiency now in the half court. And that is very, very good. That's extremely valuable. And, evidenced by some games this season where he kind of cares a little bit more defensively, can still turn it up to not the level that he was, but definitely he can find his way to positive impact on defense. He's a very, very good player. I just, like, he's playing, if the Raptors are a good team this year, and let's say this is the team they have from the start of the year, I think that he and Scottie would have a shot at all-star positions. But he's a very, very impressive player. If he does leave, I don't know what the motivations will be. I'm not that plugged in. I hear a lot of the same things that you guys do, but it would be disappointing. Like, just on the sense of like, damn, Pascal Siakam's no longer a Raptor. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
It's tough because he's one of the only guys probably in our history where the front office actively like decided that they weren't going to go all in for, whether the trade was good or bad. For Chris Bosh, they thought, let me get Jermaine O'Neal. Let's be the Twin Towers 2.0. there was never that ration from the front office, and he got to a level that I'm assuming that they did not expect. And how rapidly he did that is disappointing. They didn't go for a Dame trade, didn't try to get a Zach LaVine stuff, just another star that would have opened up the space for him to see how far he actually could go with this team. And the trades that like they made that were very marginal has put them in a situation where they're like depleted with assets, and they, or I personally feel where they kind of have to trade him, which sucks.
It's the team building leading up to this has not been as much as like Masai and Bobby deserve credit for this latest trade,
Yeah.
certainly. And not everything is viewed in a vacuum, but there was a long sequence, like a long time where they didn't have a hit. It is what it is. It's still the best front office like in Toronto sports history, I believe.
Yeah.
And like kudos to them, but they had a couple dry years. Die from North or DI from North or D from North says he doesn't want to get injured, I bet. I know this sounds speculative. You know, Van Hoot says speculating on whether or not someone doesn't want to get injured or not is not too much speculation, or is too much speculation. I'll say this. Pascal definitely doesn't want to get injured. And that affects a lot of different players' approaches. It affects Joel Embiid's approach every single game. Like you learn, and I took a class called Kinesiology 150, where you learn to disperse your body weight when you fall over a greater surface area, so there isn't as much stress on one point of the body, so you avoid injury. Joel Embiid took that and just was like, hell yeah. And then as well, Russell Westbrook, when you look at how he lands after jumps, he either goes to the ground to create that larger surface area or he stutter steps. This is to create less load bearing. And then you look at Derrick Rose, would always land with 1 foot up by his chest, the other taking all of the stuff. And so players do protect themselves. It wouldn't surprise me if Pascal, and I think it's categorically true, that Pascal has made changes in his game as far as how he operates to avoid being more prone to injury. Because this is a guy who was the most overworked player in the NBA for like 2 straight seasons, and he had a torn labrum, 2 groin injuries, has had a bunch of stuff, and these guys, this is his livelihood. If Pascal is like, 12% worse on defense during a contract year because he's like, I don't want to have something happen that alters life-changing money, then like, I don't care. OG was quiet quitting. I don't care.
Oh man, those last 2 weeks with OG was rough. But like even Pascal, like his defense has picked up post trade. It seems like the team in terms of effort has picked up in general. Like if he were to get hurt, I'd be like extremely sad, just because like what that would mean for his contract and his career in general. Because this is probably. He's at an inflection
point.
The
defense wasn't good anyway, man. Like, it doesn't matter that much. Like, they weren't guarding anybody,
he's at a weird inflection point where, like, he's looking to figure out the next step of his career, the next big deal that he's going to have. And I hope if he does get traded, it's to a team where he can be in the playoffs. So, like, Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal would be, like, very, very fun.
Yeah. I watched Knicks games. I didn't really watch Knicks games before this. I watch Heat games after Lowry got traded there. Yeah. More of them. I'll watch wherever Pascal goes if he does go. Like I'm locked in. I know some people think he's a gimmicky player because they don't watch him, and there's a lot of conversation about Beyblades, etc. But he's one of the most unique scorers in the whole of the NBA, in a league where a lot of scorers are very unique. So that's Pascal Siakam. Maybe he gets traded, maybe he doesn't. For anybody who wants more of this speculation, you can see Trey and I on a stage at Rivoli in downtown Toronto on February 6th. Not all this stuff is figured out yet, but keep your calendar clear. We'll be talking about it for like a pre-trade deadline show. Beyblade coming from Samson's mouth is funny. Do I say it funny? I have a drawl, so I don't know what I say wrong, but I want to talk about Dennis Schroder. Can I give you some numbers?
Please.
I have some big, sexy numbers for everybody. Okay. What I perceive to be quite important numbers regarding Dennis Schroder from a man in a blazer. Dennis, since the move to the bench, is averaging 16 points and 7 assists on 57% from the field. That includes 89% at the rim. 89% at the rim, and 28% of his shots are coming there. Prior to that, he was shooting 55% at the rim, and 24% of his shots are coming there. His usage has dropped a smidge. He turns the ball over a lot less, and he has been, on the whole, far more effective attacking bench guards and bench bigs. He's not going to shoot 89% at the rim for the rest of time, but I think that's a strong indicator, and people have been watching the plays. There's a lot more gaps for him to attack in a more free-flowing offense in these two-guard lineups with Emmanuel Quickley, and he can still play off of Pascal Siakam and Scottie Barnes quite effectively. It has been really, really impressive to see him just toggle it back and then guide these bench lineups. And when we think about like what the Raptors have done well since the trade, a big part of it is the bench stuff.
Yep.
And Dennis Schroder has been good in these transitional lineups. He's been good in bench lineups, and he's kind of toggled his usage between both of them. I think he's been sublime. I'm proud of the guy.
It's been great, especially because he was like so like unfairly miscast as like the Fred VanVleet like replacement. It's good to see that. It's good to see that
he literally almost makes like 4 times less than Fred VanVleet. You know,
I was told that he is the better pick and roll player.
I remember that, and then everybody was like, I don't like the numbers or the approach. I want to means test the hell out of whatever you're saying. I don't even know what answer I'm looking for, but I just
it's Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Is Anthony Davis? Does he set good screens? Oh, he's considered historically great. You know, in the pick and roll. Does that matter? I'm choosing to discount it for this new information that I like. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, he's like operating in the role that the Raptors probably envisioned, like pre-Fred trade or pre-Fred signing. But I really liked him playing next to another creator. The best usage we saw of Dennis was with the Lakers when he was paired with LeBron. It allows him to pick his spots, not be forced to be a playmaker that traditional point guard needs. And when he plays with another player that can bend defenses and get into gaps, he is such a quick player that he
Shea and CP3 as well.
He's able to extend and score and give the team a punch that the bench didn't have previously. And the Raptors love to run, and he's able to get down to the court in early offense and score fairly quickly. He was a big reason why when it looked like we were going to get Game 6 Clay yesterday, he's one of the people that steadied the ship with that lineup and then ballooned the lead back to 12. Just typically because your average bench guard is not ready for the type of athleticism that Dennis Schroder has. So it's a big advantage. When he's in this spot within the rotation, the Raptors typically have an advantage at that spot. He's one of the best backup point guards in the league.
Yeah. Mixal Qual or Mike Salqual, I don't know the pronunciation. Let me know in chat because you're in here quite often. But they mentioned that he's been better at kind of beating the rotating defense to the glass. I think a lot of misses this year where he was getting like the bottom right corner of the glass and it was like kind of skipping over the rim a little bit. I think that he's had a little bit more pace going downhill. The people have been coming a little bit later and he's been able to target a little bit more of the middle of the glass because he doesn't like the high finish. Dennis likes the low finish where he gets it off the glass quickly. So that would be goaltending if you pluck it off the backboard. But that's a really, really good insight, I think. Someone just mentioned, 2 people mentioned that Haliburton got injured. So just hope Haliburton is okay. But we also have a really insightful comment from Adamu that says, or Adam U that says, it's like everyone got to shed a chunk of their least efficient minutes and RJ picked them up and made them star J minutes. That is kind of a cool thing I've noticed because RJ, the Pat Beverly corollary of dogs or whatever the hell, and he called them pups. I don't really appeal to any of that, but RJ did a really good job in some of those transitional lineups of just being like, I'll eat the usage. Like I'll try and get a shot up. I'll try and create something. And he's well equipped to try in some of those in between minutes. Not every single action you run on an NBA court is going to be your maximized best action. That's not how it's going to end up. Not everything is the 2016 split action with Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry, or like Steph Curry plus KD pick and roll or pick and pop or whatever the hell. You have to be able to eat usage sometimes. And RJ has comfortably stepped into that role and been able to, do that. It's been Mix-Sal. Okay. Very nice to know. Mix-Sal. But yeah, I've been super, super impressed with Dennis and RJ, two people whose usage as recently as last week was maligned by two different fan bases. I think they've both done a really good job of inputting their hunger for usage in like all the right places.
Yeah.
The hierarchy of the Raptors works pretty well.
It's what Darko envisioned, and it's working well. They're producing good offense, and some of the best half-court offense we've seen in a long time in this city. So it's good.
That's true. We've not seen a lot of good half-court offense in this city. I'll tell you that
one last thing. What do you think about Jonte? I know you give me inkling of what you thought. I think we differ here.
Yeah. Right. You're a little hater. Bro, he's good. He's a G League player, man. He almost quit the sport. And for real, not fake like Draymond. He almost like quit the sport, man. Jonte was like, I've been injured too much. I've been down now on my luck. And they picked him up. They said, God did. He's got a plan for you, man.
So before I get into like actually giving my opinion, but like, what was your feeling when the Kevon Looney led run was with him on the floor? Like, what was your thought process?
Sfandiar Barahaney once told me in a hot tub we were all in that Kevon Looney was like a top 10 center. And then we fought tooth and nail for him to realize he was a bottom 10 center. And you know what? Jonte Porter, he can't truly hang with Kevon Looney on what was Kevon Looney had himself a nice game.
He did.
So what, man?
I just want everyone to like rewind, take a trip back. It was in Tampa. We had no bigs. We made a G League signing of the name of Freddie Gillespie.
He started games, bro.
We were told multiple times that the Raptors have done it again, and they have identified a G League player who is very good. Like that time, we have not done it again.
That was also Kem. Kem got waived. Kem got waived, and then he started.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then everybody was like, "They did it again." Like, who can stop these guys? Freddie Gillespie. It was never true. Jonte is being asked like a lot more modest. It's a lot more modest.
But the Raptors clearly still need a backup center. Like he's not agile enough to hang on an NBA court.
I didn't say that. Wait. He can hang
as a backup center
in spot minutes.
Sure.
He can be. He's not even on the roster.
Yeah.
He's still two-way.
He's still two-way. All right.
So, are you you're kind of getting down on this guy?
I did like the one switch he did a few. I forgot which game it was. Who's the guard that he did a really nice switch on? Can't remember. But I said, look at that. He hung. He kept real low and played to his strengths. But I would like Masai for a center with size, agility, some speed, and that can block shots.
Nicholas Claxton. Just as like in general, I love Nick Claxton. Yep. OG3 says you guys need to get in a hot tub with Masai and chat about Jakob. We also decided in that same hot tub stint that Jakob was not a top 10 center, sadly. He's also not playing tomorrow because he rolled his ankle. Do you remember Kem Birch? His agent said that he got offered $18 million a year.
Turned it down.
Wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that awesome?
That's just like
lying is cool, man.
That's an insane lie to play like. And not only was it I turned down the money to like start somewhere else. No, I turned it down to be the backup center of the Toronto Raptors.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
D from the North says, will Christian definitely be back? It seems a long recovery period. Yeah, it is not. This is like a medical thing. This isn't like an injury thing. So the rules around the team updating and the rules around the team sharing info are different. And so Christian is just coming at his own speed. However that works for him, everyone should just hope that it goes as well as it possibly can for him. And Phoenix Plays E says Koloko will be back next year. So whatever information you want to believe. Nesta asks, can they apply for a player exemption for him? I honestly haven't even considered it. Maybe they could, but that's not something I've actually considered. But Jakob Pertl tomorrow. Let's talk about that a little bit. He's out. Who do you think starts?
That is a great question. I would assume they just start Scottie at the 5 and bring up Gary. That's what I would assume. Because if, God forbid, if Jonte Porter is starting against Anthony Davis,
you don't think Darko spies that little 2-guard lineup and he says, Dennis, it's time. You don't think he sees that?
I think Gary's much easier to fit in, like within the flow of the offense, but Dennis does make sense. Just because the Lakers are also just so poor at the point of attack that he'd be able to cause real damage. I don't know how they defend Anthony Davis tomorrow. Maybe it's just like by committee they front him and just use their speed like that. But I would start Gary personally, just because it's another shooter on the wing that gives you more help.
You want to do a friendly, like
a wager?
A wager of sorts. Do you want to do one of those? What's
sure,
on the table? Ooh, we're gonna be in Mexico together in like a month. You want to bet on some tacos?
Done.
Dennis, Gary. All right.
Done.
Winner owes tacos. They're pretty cheap. It's not that big a deal. They're great tacos, though. I'm excited. Yeah, that's Coco says Samson betting ? Curses. It's not money. Anyway. You got me there, I have to say. Van Hoot says Trey has to run another space. That's true. You usually do. That is usually the winner loss.
That's also a 2-time thing. It's not something I'm willing to bet on.
Can I tell you something?
Yes, sir.
2-time thing is not a saying. It's the start of a pattern.
Yeah, I was about to say 1-time thing, but I realized I was lying because I did it multiple times.
I called into the one from the stadium, actually, the one time. Okay. Answer like 2 more questions and we'll get out of here. I guess let's just keep it on the starting lineup thing. How do we think a combination of let's assume Jonte, Chris, and Scottie do on the Lakers front court? Anthony Davis is still really good at basketball, I find.
Yeah. I think they don't have anyone scary enough for the perimeter aside from LeBron James, obviously, of course, that scare you enough where you can't throw 2 people at Anthony Davis. You would probably front and then immediately send help. And if you have, like, say in your bench lineup, or you have Scottie fronting him and then Boucher's flying in and offering the help, that'd be really difficult for the Lakers because they don't have the requisite shooting 9 out of 10 times. So I would assume that's how they would play him.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to front. Well, actually, they're going to play somebody on his back. They're going to hang somebody in the lane to dissuade post entries. That's what I think happens. And then they're going to have to catch up to guard the ball elsewhere. And Austin Reeves is going to grift his way to at least 8 free throws, and I'm going to lose it.
I forgot you have a thing with Austin Reeves. He probably has like, RJ is actually one of those other guys who have like a very good whistle. He gets to the line.
RJ earns his free throws, man. He's a battering ram.
Yeah.
Can I also say that, like, he's got some great nicknames. Star J is that's like a Hall of Fame nickname. So is Our J. I liked that one. I coined that one. You know, with the little Canadian flag. Not that I'm a big like nationalist or anything like that, but
It's
you
good to
you
have.
get the idea. I
He
enjoyed watching Shea this summer, I'll say.
he misrepresented our level of food though. The fact that the first thing that he picked was osmos is just an entire disappointment on the entire country.
That was pretty like why do you think he said that?
I,
Do you think that's true? Like, has he not been put on?
I don't know. Like, there's no way he hasn't been to like the local shawarma spot in like Mississauga. I just feel like he must have had his business hat on. There's no other way.
They told him, they whispered in the ear, like, you know, there's an Osmos deal incoming. That's yeah. Coco says he's been away for a bit, or he wants those sponsorship dollars. Yeah, I suspect he's making a business decision, and one the Raptors, the biggest brand deals the guys on the team have been like signing are like Pascal's always Red Bull deal, presumably, but also like there's been a lot of like crypto stuff from Raptors players lately, and being like, hey, I like Osmos is way better than crypto stuff. So yeah, or like Subway, I suppose. They say live review question mark. And then Rip D Rose says some people just like shitty food, fam. That's true. Some people, there's like everything is made out of corn in the United States and Canada. Everything is made out of corn. And we just eat corn and like things that come from corn. Do you know this? Everything is corn here, dude.
It's we after going like our good friend Josh Coronero took us on like a little West Coast tour of food, and after having Raising Cane's, I could see it.
We were so primed to enjoy that food, though.
Yeah.
We gone to the Grand Canyon for hours. We played basketball in the desert. We're like, get us some chicken. We need to eat some chicken. We walked in there. We slammed it and the Texas toast. This is actually the second. When S was on, I was talking about. Well, actually, that's a few episodes ago. We were talking about Golden Corral, and we are talking about Sal's Pizza in San Francisco. OG3 says high fructose corn syrup is in our DNA. Yes. Also, what was the one that DuPont? It was like Teflon. It was like something to the power of 8. It's in like every single living thing as well because they just poisoned the world with it. And then in the town where it happened, they just gave like a whole whack of people cancer. Cool Cat Co says Scottie got Subway and Google phone on lock, and he does the crypto one as well. Scramble says rice has more nutrition than your corn syrup. Rice is so fire, man. I had rice tonight.
Not a big
Phoenix Play Z has updated us with a Shams report. He says that All-Star Tyrese Halliburton has suffered a left hamstring strain. That isn't as bad as it read in chat.
Yeah,
I thought his leg got severed.
That's fair.
Based on what chat, but that probably keeps him out. Like he's not in the All-Star game, probably.
Yeah, he's probably out for a month and change, if not more. That's tough.
Yeah. Van Hoot says that was a story from the Aaron Brockovich movie. It was the one with what's his face? He's the Hulk. Mark Ruffalo. He starred in it. He played the lawyer. Anyway, we're talking about food. That feels like a good place to end it. Rip D Rose says, who's going to be the first Raptor to take the Bet Rivers bag? I don't think they're allowed to do that. I think they're allowed to own part of it as part of the new CBA. I think they're allowed to like invest, like how like, you know, Kevin Garnett, you could emulate Kevin Garnett who like has a betting company like type thing. Coco says rice is a staple for the global majority. It is the most clutch food of all time, in my opinion. And then Channel said, okay, sir, what's the most clutch food then?
Like I'm just not a rice person. Like as my base, give me some mixed veggies, maybe mashed potatoes. Oh,
you're talking to an Irish fellow over here. I could eat some mashed potatoes.
I could muck up some mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes are fire. Mixed veggies, I wasn't actually expecting. Mixed veggies is a good answer. That's a healthy answer.
Yeah, man.
I'm proud of you.
Mexico.
No wonder you look so good all the time. Mexico incoming. Holy smokes. Phoenix Plays E says burger slap. Burgers are not rice, though. Could you imagine if people like burgers like rice? It's just like the... Anyway. That feels like a podcast. Yeah. Right? We got a podcast here. Okay, before you guys get out of here, listeners, like the video. It'll help suggest it to other people. And it's free. It's one click away. It's right there. For the people listening via the podcast apps, which is actually where the majority of the people listen, thank you for indulging the non-linear aspect of the live podcast this year. I hope you enjoy the extra banter and the interaction with the chat. I certainly enjoy it. Especially when they're... Sometimes chat is mean. Not really anymore, but there was a time where I was like, dang, you guys are really cooking me all the time. Like, Jesus Lord. Like people, people come in from like other places and they're like, I hate you. You're so stupid or whatever. I'm like, damn, this is crazier than the normal podcast. Joseph Cassidy says was pretty much a podcast. I feel like that's a good point. Yeah, it was pretty much a podcast.
Like our every interaction. We like anytime that we go for a ride anywhere, we just like do a podcast.
That is the most like guy thing you've ever said. Every guy ever has said that. You know?
I thought that was really endearing. I thought that was like commemorating our friendship.
No. Rip D-Ro says, was it hard to come out as bald? No, but our mutual friend, whose name I can't say on the podcast, I made a video once and sent it to Trey and my friends, and it was really funny because I was reenacting a fight scene, and I had a bunch of cuts, and then the one guy just said, "You really wear the beanie inside?" And I was like, "Oh man," and that was like before I was like shaving. That was like when I was leaving like a little bit more on, and I was like, okay, it's gotta go. It's all gotta go. Phoenix Plays E says people finding out Samson is bald is wild. Yeah, because that is like I said the other time. I'm not hat fishing anybody. Like I'm not trying to trick anybody. That's why my Twitter photo is like it's me. I'm a bald guy. But yeah, would I like to have hair like Timothy Chalamet? Sure, I would. But hey, the cards you're dealt, man. This is the way of the world. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Trey?
If Masai pulls off another trade like this at the deadline, I will publicly apologize to that man.
That's all it would take? Wait. Or sorry, you need that? Because I have a video of you after Grady Dick got drafted screaming. And since you have a deep voice, I feel inclined to say bellowing, Masai is back.
How
do you feel?
That was a moment of weakness. But if he pulls off another one like this, you won't hear me say a bad word about him again.
All right. Noted. Scramble says shout out to the thumbnail to this pod. I do love the Step Brothers thing. It's like it's pretty funny. RR says Turkey is a flight away, Samson. Yeah, but so was like you know what? S I think has a more linear path to extreme wealth. If he goes there, I'll tag along. Otherwise, I don't know. Trey, how much did that headboard cost you?
Poor financial decision.
You bought that? That didn't come with it?
No, bro.
You're a fool.
My son's. I have no idea what my son's sign is.
I don't have a headboard. I just got pillows over there. I know I'm supposed to have a headboard and all that kind of stuff, but I told you this story before, Trey. But when I moved to Toronto, a leg put me on this bed company that he was going to order from, and they're like a little bit scammers, but he vouched for it, and then he ended up getting a bed from somewhere else. So my bed situation, not ideal. D from the North says, no trade, just a contract for him. We'll see. Yeah. I feel like we'll see. All this kind of stuff, we'll see. Headboards, food, all that good stuff. The banter is part and parcel of the Pull Up Trey podcast, which I think will be coming out more regularly now that we've sorted things.
Yeah.
We had a contract dispute from Trevon Heath. He's fighting for his well-earned dollar. All right, Trey, you want to say goodbye to the people? You can do the outro. Look at that.
I need a catchphrase at the end. I don't have what you have, but I'll say.
Not a lot of people do. I slumped into some good catchphrases.
Thing. I'll think of one for next time. I'll just I'll do a Soul Train. Peace, love, and soul.
Wow.
Goodbye.
All right.